Welcome to On the Spot Review. In this video, I'll be talking about Lady Macbeth. So before I get into spoilers, I'll give you my general impression so you can kind of gauge my opinion of this movie. Lady Macbeth is one of the weirdest movies I've seen so far this year, where I don't really know if I generally liked the movie or disliked it completely. I thought the movie itself was interesting in some areas. I liked the atmosphere that it gave off. I liked the ending in it as well. I think the general uh, look at it, when I looked at the movie from start to finish, I overall thought it was a very well made movie. I think the movie is interesting. I don't think you're gonna waste your time seeing this movie. I don't think it's a waste of time. I think it's a very well crafted movie that might have some issues here and there. The parts that I really don't really make heads or tails of, or the parts that kind of make me feel not confused, but just unsure if I like it or dislike it, is the parts where it has to deal with some character developments in some parts of the story where it just kind of didn't feel developed to me. Uh, I don't know. I feel like that they're developed enough, but I feel like that they need to be fleshed out a little bit more to actually give the events some impact. The stuff that's going on in the movie is interesting as on its own, but I feel that there's no emotional intensity or anything that really sticks out when I think about the movie. I can't really think of a particular scene aside from the ending that really stood out to me, other than a few other scenes in the movie, which I'll get into, as I said, in the spoilers. But uh, that's really it. Is it a movie that's worth your time? I think so. I think if you go to the theater and you see this movie, I don't think you're going to leave the theater disappointed or anything. The pacing is pretty on point. By the time that you kind of feel like the movie's slowing down, the movie picks up again. So I do like that. I like that a lot, because there was one instance where I did look at my watch during the movie, which I try not to do when I watch a movie. I kind of gauge my interest off that. So watching this movie, I looked like it was somewhere in the middle. I looked at my watch, look how much time has passed, and then by the time I looked back at the screen, the movie started to pick up again. It started to move, and it started to add things to the plot that made it more dynamic in a way. So I do like the movie overall. I think the movie is a pretty solid movie. I just don't know how I feel in the sense of my overall opinion of the movie being a movie I would buy again. I don't think this is a movie that I would go crazy for to go see again, or if it's a movie like that, but it's a movie I do think it's worth at least watching if you're interested in that kind of story or that kind of premise, because it's based off of a Russian book. I think the book is called Lady Macbeth of something with an M. I can't think of the name right now, but it's based off that book, and that's the other thing. I feel that maybe the movie took out some scenes that were in the book that really fleshed out some characters. Maybe that's the case, but as a movie on its own, it just kind of feels like there's some things that were not developed properly. The world building in this movie is a little to be desired. You get the time setting fine. It's just that you don't know where they are necessarily, or or better, or in other words, you don't know necessarily how the outside views this family or these particular people. These people kind of feel kind of isolated in their own little world in the movie, but it's not a big thing in the movie. It's not like that made or break the movie for me, but it was something that was kind of nagging me in the back of my head. So so overall, if I were to rate this movie, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10. I think, yeah, an 8 out of 10. I think an 8 out of 10 is pretty fair for what I got, because I felt I was entertained and I got out of it. So that's it for the general opinions of the movie. Now I want to get into some of the spoiler stuff. I'm not getting into everything. We go off from the stuff that I remember in here. So again, if you haven't seen the movie, I recommend you stop watching this review right now. Go watch the movie. If what I said before sold it, go watch it. Come back, and here you go. So again, spoilers. You've been warned. So Macbeth falls in love with one of the servants in this mansion. She's in this loveless relationship with her husband. The husband doesn't really treat her very well, and that's something that was interesting. Was that she kind of was like there to be a doll. And at first, when I was watching this movie, I thought it was gonna be a movie about empowerment or her trying to break free of this oppression that she's withstanding or endearing in this particular household. So that's what I was kind of going in and expecting. But that so she falls in love with a servant. She has sex with him, so she starts to have these emotions where she hasn't had before. So it does, the story for the most part in the beginning starts to feel like it's about this woman that's secluded and isolated, and then starting to get a taste of what it is to actually be in a relationship that's based off of sex. And it's interesting. It kind of makes you a little bit curious as to where it's gonna go. The husband doesn't come home, so you kind of left there thinking, what's the husband doing? Where's he going? And so then she's left with the husband's father, so basically her father-in-law, uh, and he also kind of abuses her. He kind of demeans the staff as well. She's not the father-in-law is not a very well liked character. And that's the other thing I will criticize about the story, is that there's really not a character I generally liked. None of the characters were likable at all. Not even Lady Macbeth, even at the beginning. So there wasn't anyone there that I was like, oh, it'd be a terrible thing if this character were to die or something. There was really no character that was likable. So when you started seeing her kill off the father-in-law and the husband, you just don't feel much about it because you didn't like those characters. The movie didn't really try to make you care for these characters, so it just kind of it took away from the impact of these characters being killed off. Now, of course, the husband, I'm not necessarily saying that we had to like the husband. I'm saying, like, if Macbeth was likable in the beginning, it would have been a better. I feel like that these scenes would have been better, because the whole movie she's been cold and distant. So when she kills someone, it doesn't feel like that she snapped or that she had enough. She just kind of kills him. So it doesn't really come off as, oh, this has been a bent up incident, or that she reached her limit. It's just, I'm gonna kill these people, and that's kind of what she does throughout the whole movie. She kind of becomes a monster in this movie. So in the realms of a horror movie, like a thriller movie, it kind of works, but the movie doesn't, to me, feel like it's a genuine horror or thriller or slasher movie. It kind of has that tone, but it just, I don't know what it is necessarily. I can't really put my finger on it, but there's just something here that it just feels like this movie wanted to be mostly about story, and it kind of got sidetracked in some of the thriller kind aspects of it, which is fine. It just, again, if we were meant to like Lady Macbeth in the beginning, and then as the movie goes on we start to dislike her, I think it would have had a bigger impact than just, I don't know much about this character, she's cold, I don't really have any opinion of her, and then she kills off two characters in the beginning of the movie, and you're just like, okay, like it just doesn't have any shock to it or anything that's like, oh, I can't believe she did that, or wow, she did that, she ended these people that were terrible to her or something. But then after that, you find out that her late husband that she killed ended up having a child with some other person or something. So he starts living in the house, and he's kind of treated as the master of the house because he's kind of like the next in line, basically, kind of thing. Uh, and that was an interesting part of the movie. To be honest, I thought I was gonna hate it when I first saw that. To be honest, because I was like, oh, it's gonna drag on with this, but I liked the scenes with her and the son. Those were kind of warm moments, and these moments were almost like it almost made me like the character. It almost made me like Macbeth uh, a bit, and it made me get a little bit more invested. But then, as soon by the time I started getting, I started warming up to her, she kills the child, and this part was kind of telegraphed to me. It was kind of telegraphed to the point where I was annoyed a little bit because she goes to meet Sebastian, her lover, her whatever. He's like, I can't be here if he's there, and this and that. It's not gonna work out. So she tells him, "Oh, just trust me, just don't worry, trust me." And I sat there, I was like, she's gonna kill the kid. I knew that immediately as soon as she did that. So they go inside the house. She talks the mother, or the servant lady or whatever to go to the other room and to sleep or something. Like, oh, you've been up for an hour, take a nap or whatever. So she leaves, and as soon as she left, I was like, yeah, they're gonna kill the kid. So she sneaks Sebastian in. They kill the kid. And that was when I saw that, like, it's detestable, and that part, I think you are supposed to immensely dislike the character, obviously, but it's just, again, to go back to what I said before, I think it would have been better if there was more, like, development with that, or you see her more starting to consider, like she's at first appalled at the idea that, oh, I can't believe I'm thinking about killing a child, but you don't really get that scene, and she just goes to it immediately, and it's like, oh, and you could always argue that, well, she killed two people before, so it's kind of like, well, it is, but it's just that she killed an old guy, okay, and then she killed a guy that was kind of abusive towards her in a way, and like, I think in a psychotic kind of way, like kind of like mentally abusive to her or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, he's a fucking asshole, okay. And then she goes straight to, let's kill a kid. And the kid didn't have any ounce of danger. Like, you didn't think, oh, this kid's gonna grow up to be a monster or something. I mean, he was kind of a charming little boy, and then she kills him quickly. It's like, yeah, yeah. Obviously, you're supposed to dislike her when she kills the kid, but it's just kind of, it's like, it would have been more impactful if we had a few scenes of her kind of, battling with the thoughts of it, and then finally committing to it, and then going from there. As I said in the earlier part of this video, the ending was probably my favorite part of this movie, and it really struck to me because she kills the kid. She, the Sebastian gets swayed by guilt because he's feeling like so guilty for these murders that he confesses that it was him and Lady Macbeth who killed these people, and she immediately turns on him and says, no, it was him and this other servant, so they're the ones that killed him, not me, and all that, and at first I thought I was gonna hate that because she got away with killing a kid, but the thing that I liked that kind of resonated to me with that was she did all of that, but she's still kind of a prisoner in her own house in a sense. Like, it ends with her doing the same routine as she has been doing since the beginning of the movie, and I think that's it's a very strong ending, in my opinion, because it's like, yeah, she got away with murder, but she's now in a house kind of like empty and alone, and she's just stuck in this routine day in, day out. So that is what I liked about that movie. The ending is kind of the best part of the movie. It kind of really stood out to me. It kind of really impacted a lot. And again, as I said earlier, I think this movie is the kind of movie where you watch it once, and once you leave the theater, you constantly think about the movie, and it's really you think about it a lot, and you don't get that a lot in movies these days. Dunkirk was a good movie and all, but I think this one was a better movie in the sense of what you got out of watching it. I think it's a more entertaining movie if you're looking for a very provocative, thoughtful movie that really makes you think as you when you leave the theater, where you kind of might readjust your opinion or readjust how you watch the movie. It's a very interesting movie to say the least. I still stand by that. I think some scenes could have been fleshed out more, sure, but I think the ending was such a good ending that it left you thinking and it left you really, really like just invested in what was going on. So that's it for my review of Lady Macbeth. If you like this video, let me know in the comments below, or like or dislike the video, however you please. Thank you for watching this on the spot review. See you in the next review.